Welcome to FDA's Tobacco Compliance Webinars. Information and education for retailers and small businesses, sponsored by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration and the Center for Tobacco Products. I'm David Racine. Thanks for joining us today. FDA's Office of Regulatory Affairs and the Center for Tobacco Products collaborate to perform inspections of domestic tobacco product manufacturers. Joining me today are my colleagues, David Keith from CTP's Office of Compliance and Enforcement, and Gabriel Munez from FDA's Office of Regulatory Affairs within the Office of Medical Products and Tobacco Operations. Now, David will provide an overview of the provisions of the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, known as the FD&C Act, and implementing regulations that apply to tobacco products. And Gabriel will provide an overview of FDA inspections and investigations. Now, you'll notice that some of the slides have reference boxes that link to relevant guidance documents, letters, and past webinars that you can find on FDA's websites. We encourage you to review those materials in addition to today's webinar. Now, let me turn the program over to David Keith. David?
Thanks, David. CTP oversees the implementation of the Family Smoking Prevention and Tobacco Control Act, which gives FDA authority to regulate the manufacture, distribution, and marketing of tobacco products in order to protect public health. The Office of Regulatory Affairs, or ORA, working in collaboration with CTP, conducts inspections and investigations of regulated tobacco firms and facilities to assess compliance with the tobacco law and regulations FDA enforces. ORA is a lead office for all FDA field activities. Cadre investigators from ORA's Tobacco Operations Staff, or TOS, within the Office of Medical Products and Tobacco Operations, or OMPTO, are considered technical experts in inspectional and investigative techniques in the specialized functional area of tobacco products. Cadre investigators are responsible for conducting comprehensive inspections and investigations of FDA-regulated tobacco industry firms and manufacturing facilities. The tobacco cadre receives training, including field training, to ensure that each will possess the knowledge, skills, and abilities necessary to successfully support FDA's mission. The tobacco cadre may be accompanied by subject matter experts from CTP's Office of Compliance and Enforcement, and both parties are credentialed to carry out these inspections. ORA supports CTP by inspecting tobacco products and manufacturers and collecting regulated tobacco products for sample analysis. Section 905G of the FD&C Act directs FDA to inspect every establishment registered with FDA that is engaged in the manufacture, compounding, or processing of a tobacco product. FDA's inspection authority can be found at Section 704 of the FD&C Act. Section 704A1 provides FDA with the authority to inspect any factory, warehouse, or establishment in which tobacco products are manufactured, processed, packed, or held for introduction into interstate commerce or after such introduction. Therefore, if you own or operate a domestic tobacco product manufacturing establishment, the topics we cover in this webinar may be of interest to you. FDA inspections will take place at a reasonable time, within reasonable limits, and in a reasonable manner. This means that FDA can inspect at any time that the establishment is generally open for business conducting manufacturing operations. Section 905G of the FD&C Act directs FDA to inspect registered tobacco product establishments at least once every 2 years. And generally, these inspections will not be pre-announced. One of the pathways to market for a new tobacco product is a pre-market tobacco product application, or PMTA. Upon receipt of a PMTA, the FDA will determine if the application can be accepted and then file for a substantive review. As part of its review process, a pre-announced inspection may be conducted. This inspection may or may not be included as meeting the requirement of Section 905G of the FD&C Act. Now Gabriel will give an overview of FDA inspections.
Thanks, David. ORA has moved from a geographical structure with regions and districts in charge of multiple programs to a program-based management structure. This program alignment effort is a plan to modernize and strengthen the way the FDA fulfills its public health role, enabling it to keep pace with the acceleration of scientific innovations, the global expansion of markets, and the new programmatic mandates. It will allow the agency to form distinct commodity-based and vertically integrated regulatory programs, including pharmaceutical quality, food and feed, medical devices, radiological health, and tobacco. Under program alignment, the Office of Medical Products and Tobacco Operations in ORA has dedicated team of investigators, referred to as Tobacco Operations Staff or the Tobacco Cadre, whose primary focus is to conduct inspections of tobacco product manufacturers. Inspections and investigations help ensure manufacturers are in compliance with the applicable laws and regulations. The Tobacco Cadre also investigates events to ensure tobacco products such as cigarettes, e-cigarettes, and other regulated products are not distributed as free samples, and to ensure that smokeless tobacco product free samples are distributed in accordance with FDA regulations. The Tobacco Cadre documents observations and collects evidence as necessary during an inspection or investigation. This map represents the coverage of the Tobacco Operations Program throughout the U.S. and U.S. territories. As we discussed earlier, Section 704A of the FD&C Act gives FDA authority to enter, at reasonable times, any factory, warehouse, or establishment in which tobacco products are manufactured, processed, packed, or held for introduction into interstate commerce, or after such introduction. FDA can also enter any vehicle being used to transport or hold tobacco products in interstate commerce. FDA has authority to inspect at reasonable times and within reasonable limits and in a reasonable manner all pertinent equipment, finished and unfinished materials, containers, and labeling within such factory, warehouse, establishment, or vehicle. In the case of any establishment in which tobacco products are manufactured, processed, packed, or held, FDA's inspectional authority extends to all things therein, including records, files, papers, processes, controls, and facilities, bearing on whether tobacco products are adulterated or misbranded within the meaning of the FD&C Act, whether the tobacco products may not be manufactured, introduced into interstate commerce, or sold, or offered for sale, or otherwise bearing on a violation of the FD&C Act. There are limitations to FDA's inspectional authority under the FD&C Act. FDA is not authorized to request financial data, sales data other than shipment data, or pricing data. FDA is also not authorized to request for review personnel data other than data as qualifications of technical or professional personnel performing functions subject to this act. An establishment inspection is conducted to examine a facility to determine its compliance with the laws and regulations administered by FDA. In general, the objectives of an FDA inspections are to review the establishment's manufacturing processes and operating procedures, observe and evaluate the establishment's manufacturing and design operations, document and collect information, identify violations of the FD&C Act, communicate potential violations observed by the investigator, and discuss with the firm management during the course of the inspection and during the closeout meeting, and document any corrective actions proposed by the firm. FDA conducts different types of inspections. For example, comprehensive inspections involve a complete review of the establishment and its regulated products. FDA may also conduct directed inspections, such as for-cause inspections in response to complaints or recalls. Additionally, pre-market inspections may be conducted as part of the review process for modified risk tobacco products and pre-market tobacco applications. FDA's procedures for inspections can be found in Investigations Operations Manual, or IOM. The IOM is a primary source for FDA's policy and procedures for field investigators. The IOM is accessible through the FDA's website under the term IOM. The IOM contains valuable general information on inspectional policy and procedures that apply for all FDA-regulated establishments. FDA updates the IOM annually. FDA prepares for inspections by reviewing the firm's history, including past complaints, violations, submissions, and relevant provisions of the law and regulations and guidance documents. There are 8 chapters in the Investigations Operations Manual. The topics include administration, regulatory, federal and state cooperation, sampling, establishment inspections, imports, recall activities, and investigations. This slide describes how FDA will typically initiate an FDA inspection upon arrival at an establishment. The ORA lead investigator will request to meet with the most responsible person at the firm. This may be the owner, operator, or agent in charge of the establishment or other top management official on site. Each FDA representative will then introduce themselves by name, title, and organization, and display their credential. The lead investigator will then issue a Form FDA 42, Notice of Inspection, to the most responsible person. An excerpt of a sample Form FDA 42, Notice of Inspection, is shown on this slide. A Form FDA 42 contains the district office address and phone number, the name and title of the most responsible individual of the firm's name and address, and phone number. Information on the date and time that the inspection was initiated, the FDA's representatives' names, titles, and signature, and a statement of FDA's authority to inspect under the FD&C Act. FDA will provide a copy of the signed Form FDA 42 to the firm. An FDA tobacco product inspection will typically cover, but is not limited to, the following areas: administrative information of the establishment and owners, a review of requirements and submissions and reporting to the agency, such as establishment registration and product listing of ingredients, tobacco health documents, packaging, labeling, and advertising requirements, marketing authorization for new and modified risk tobacco products, and reminding the establishment of new compliance dates for newly deemed tobacco products. Additional information is also described in the May 6, 2016 FDA letter to industry titled Notice to Industry, Additional Tobacco Products Now Regulated by the Food and Drug Administration. Inspections will also cover administrative information of the establishment. Examples of administrative information include, but are not limited to, firm contact information, name, address, phone, fax, email, who the most responsible individual is, information on the firm history, which may include the legal status of the firm, for example, corporation, partnership, limited liability corporation, the organization of the firm, for example, the parent corporation and any subsidiaries, if any, number of persons employed, hours of operation, names, titles, and addresses of top management officials. Other administrative information that may be obtained may include list of regulated tobacco products manufactured, distributed, packed, labeled, promoted, or advertised, information on interstate commerce such as where regulated products are shipped, for example, estimated percentage of products shipped out of state and exported, general promotion and distribution patterns. Documentation of interstate commerce may be collected. The roles and responsibilities of the responsible individuals and the names and titles of all persons interviewed, and manufacturing and design operations. Now, David will discuss the provisions of the FD&C Act and implementing regulations that are currently in effect and may be covered during a tobacco product establishment inspection. David?
Thanks. First, let's cover what products are regulated under FDA's tobacco product authorities. Previously, Chapter 9 of the FD&C Act applied only to cigarettes, roll-your-own tobacco, smokeless tobacco, and cigarette tobacco. On August 8, 2016, FDA finalized a rule extending FDA's authority to all other categories of tobacco products meeting the statutory definition of a tobacco product, except accessories of such products. These products include, but are not limited to, electronic nicotine delivery systems, dissolvables, pipe tobacco, hookah tobacco, cigars, nicotine gels, and any novel future tobacco products. These newly regulated tobacco product manufacturers are subject to FDA inspection. Generally, these inspections will determine your establishment's compliance with Chapter 9 of the FD&C Act. On these slides, you will see many of the requirements that may apply to tobacco product manufacturers under the FD&C Act and its implementing regulations. These slides also provide resources and references related to these requirements, such as links to the text of the provision, related guidance documents, and other previously released webinars on these topics. As Gabriel previously mentioned, FDA's tobacco cadre may inquire about documents or information related to these requirements during a manufacturing inspection. Please note that this may not be an exhaustive list of requirements. We encourage you to review the FDA website as well as the links provided in the resources and references column for further details, such as compliance dates for newly deemed tobacco products. Now Gabriel will explain how FDA inspections conclude.
An FDA inspection will conclude with a closeout discussion between the FDA representatives and firm management. At this closeout discussion, any observations will be discussed. If necessary, a Form FDA 43, Inspectional Observations, will be issued for significant objectionable conditions. During the closeout discussion, the firm's responses to observations and timeframes given for corrections and/or corrective action will be reported. A copy of a sample Form FDA 43 is provided and can be obtained at FDA's website under IOM. FDA will prepare a final report for the inspection, known as the Establishment Inspection Report, or EIR. The EIR will describe the information discussed and collected during the inspection. Additional information on the content of the EIR can be found in the IOM available on FDA's website. Once the inspection is closed, FDA's Field Management Directive, or FMD 145, provides guidance and criteria for releasing a copy of the EIR to the establishment. The EIR will be provided to the most responsible individual identified during the inspection. It may take several weeks or months before a copy of the EIR will be provided. That concludes our presentation. David?
Thanks, gentlemen. We understand that FDA inspections are new to some parts of the tobacco product industry. We have some great resources for you on our website, and we encourage you to review those materials. Please also check our website often for updates and sign up for the Center's CTP News and CTP Connect email services. And if you have any questions regarding the topics discussed in this webinar, please contact askctp@fda.hhs.gov or 1-877-287-1373. In addition, the Office of Small Business Assistance provides technical and other non-financial assistance to support small tobacco manufacturers in complying with the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. The Office of Small Business Assistance can be contacted by email at smallbiz.tobacco@fda.hhs.gov. So let me thank Gabriel and David for their presentations, but most of all, thank you for your participation in this webinar, brought to you by the Center for Tobacco Products, protecting our kids and the nation's health from tobacco.